Thanks to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video.
So you know what, over the past several years, I have realised that there's one thing, one very specific main thing that sets apart a great photographer from an average photographer. And I really wanted to get into that in today's video. Oh, I'll tell you what, I can smell the bluebells in this woodland. I'm sure of it. I'm absolutely sure of it. And yeah, I'm going to be doing a bit of photography in this woodland this evening, hopefully. And it's going to be pretty much the perfect photography location for me to talk about this skill. I think that really you need to develop to really take your photography up, like really start being happy with your photographs. And this is something, like I said, I've slowly learned this over the years from my own photography, from seeing how other photographers work and things like that. And man, I am buzzing to get in here, absolutely buzzing. Wow. Oh, look at this. So I'm out this evening, local woodland. This is only 20 minutes from home. Beautiful bluebell woodland. And I'm out just to do a little bit of a recce, just to see how far along the bluebells are. This is one thing with the frigging bluebells and the wild garlic and wild flowers in general, if you're ever photographing them. You've really got to keep coming back because it's so unpredictable every year. You can have really poor displays, you can have amazing displays, but the one thing that I've learned is you've got to sort of just keep turning up and assessing the situation. To be honest, we're probably a week or two early by looking at these, which I'll admit I am absolutely delighted about. Simply because myself and my friend, fellow landscape photographer Ian Worth, have got our photography tour in the Lake District in around about 2 weeks. And I've seen a lot of the bluebells out and about, you know, just on the side of roads and stuff like that. And they've all looked fully developed. I've got some in the garden at home as well. And I don't know, it's just made me worry, thinking, oh, is everyone going to come for the photography tour and all the bluebells are going to have been and gone early, you know, because this is early for the bluebells. But I guess in the woods, you've got the canopy to deal with, haven't you? So they won't have had as much sunlight. So there, this is a really good sign. Listen to that. The sounds of, oh, it's unreal. Honestly, if you've got like a woodland near to you, any old woodland, even if you're not into photography, which is unlikely if you're watching this video, just get out to it this springtime, turn the telly off, go out for an evening's wander. Now, obviously the sunset's a lot later now here in the UK, it's 6 p.m. Get out in the evening. You just can't get better than that. Now, anyway, let's get into the topic of today's video. This particular skill that I believe really sets apart a very good photographer and an average photographer, let's say, and that is, I've spoken about this loads on the channel before, it's essentially composition, but very specifically learning how to build a photograph from scratch. And I had a proper realization in last week's video about this, or something that happened in last week's video is going to give me a very simple opportunity to try and explain this, probably like in reverse. Now, in last week's video on my photography adventure, I spent it in the mountains, like most weeks. Mostly because I just love being out in the fells. I love being out in mountainous terrain and I love photographing mountainous terrain. And I mean, this is what I've spoken about a lot on this channel before. I've just generally find that it's a heck of a lot easier to take photographs when you're out in the mountains. I mean, certain landscapes, but for me, the mountains, definitely. And I'm not sort of saying that you haven't still got to work for your photographs. I'm just saying that in my opinion, I think there's a heck of a lot less work to take decent photographs out in the mountains compared to somewhere like this. And I really noticed this last week with one specific photograph. I got to the top of the fell, a particular peak called Swirl How, and a photograph just sort of came to me, and that was the realization, is that, you know, in certain landscapes, photographs just come to you. And I spend a lot of my time in those sorts of landscapes. So in a way, I'm saying, I genuinely don't think I'm that much of a good photographer in general. But I think even if I do get good photographs, it's because I'm just in the right places at the right time. You know, I'm on top of a beautiful mountain with an epic vista. And this is what I said last week when I was on top of that mountain. I said, well, if you get yourself up here, who am I kidding? You know, at the end of the day, yes, you work hard to get to the top of a mountain, but you don't have to work that hard to get a decent photograph, because everything, you're receiving the good images. Whereas when you're somewhere like this, I just feel like it's completely different. So yeah, when I'm out in the mountains as a landscape photographer, you know, photographs and opportunities present themselves to me. You know, it could be a ridge or a mountain peak or a nice patch of light, or I might just stumble across a beautiful rock down in the foreground that works well with an epic background. It just seems like it happens constantly. And of course, generally, if you're out in the mountains, you're out on a hike, you cover a lot of ground, so everything changes all the time. When you're just in a little woodland like this, for example, I feel like it flips, you know, it completely flips. I now, as a photographer, have a much more difficult job to do. Nothing in this woodland, for the most part, is coming to me. Everything's having to come from me. I'm having to find photographs. I'm having to discover opportunities. Whereas when I'm out in the mountains, like I said, I feel like I want to get my camera out all the time because everything just looks class. You know, I feel like there's so many chances to take decent images. So I'm trying to think outside the box a little bit here to start with, and this is probably, yeah, like the bread and butter of actually trying to build a photograph from scratch. And yeah, it's all about trying to find subtle beauty like this. You can really try and go intimate. I think that's a fantastic way to actually really train your eye to start with this kind of flipped approach. Don't wait for the photographs to come to you. Look around, you know, for intimate little scenes, intimate little subjects. You know, it's like you're in charge of the photography, not like the mountains as in the example that I'm using. I'm finding the photographs, you know, and I've found this really small little selection of bluebells here. And I'm trying to think outside the box here because, you know, I could come to this woodland and say, oh, the bluebells aren't out just yet. You know, I can't take my nice wide scene that I've got in my mind of a beautiful carpet of bluebells and some nice evening light. Haven't really got any light, although it does keep coming in and out of those clouds every now and again, in fairness, so that's a little bit of a lie. But yeah, I'm just trying to think outside the box a little bit. I've already mentioned that I don't feel like the bluebells are fully developed yet, so I'm trying to use that to my advantage in this particular photograph. So I've got the 24-200 lens and I'm zoomed in right at 200mm on that tiny little section of bluebells that you can see there. And you can see one looks pretty fully developed on the right hand side, and there's a few small ones that are yet to flower, yet to bloom. And I've zoomed, obviously right in at 200mm, right in on that little section you may be able to see there. F6.3 to kind of blur all of the background of, you know, what's behind that bluebell. And ISO's down on 64 and at 1/115th of a second, which is a very slow shutter speed. However, if you look there, nothing's moving. We've not really got any wind this evening. I think actually, I said there wasn't really any light, didn't I? But we did get lucky. There was a very quick glow that just seemed to happen as I had the camera set up. I suppose some of the clouds up there are quite thin, you know, quite wispy, so it's allowing some light through, so good timing. But yeah, like I was saying, I think that's the bread and butter, is learning to try and think outside the box. So for example, I don't know, when I'm out in the mountains, for the most part, I'm not thinking outside the box really. It's just, I'm going to keep repeating myself, but it is like photograph comes to me. There's an opportunity. I'm just hiking along. I look over my shoulder. Wow, look at that mountain scene there. And I get my camera out and take the shot. Yes, you know, I've got to work hard to physically get to that location. So in a way, you kind of deserve that. But not really thinking outside the box. Whereas when you're somewhere like this, where, I mean, we've all been there, haven't we? It's beautiful. You can't deny it. This woodland's gorgeous. But it doesn't necessarily mean there's loads of good photographs to be had. It's really, really hard. Yeah, I think realising all of this was, I mean, it's one thing realising it, but then implementing it's the hard part, isn't it? We all know that. But that was probably the biggest shift for me, definitely the biggest shift as a landscape photographer into, oh, you actually have to work hard to get good photographs a lot of the time. You know, and I'd go out with other photographers and I'd maybe be somewhere like this, you know, a beautiful woodland that I'm enjoying being out in, but I'm sort of wandering around. Let's imagine that we all sort of split up, the other photographers, and I'm just, oh, it's nice, but yeah, not really much to photograph, is there? And then you meet back up, you get back later on, whatever, and then you look at their photographs and they're all amazing. And that's, yeah, like clicks, you're like, oh, there's actually photographs everywhere. You just needn't be so dismissive about where you are. You've got to work much harder and I guess slow down a lot as well. You know, this is a cliche, you hear it a lot, but it's true. I'm banging on about the mountains, aren't I, in this video, but I just think it's the perfect analogy, like woodland versus epic mountains. You know, I don't feel like I have to go slow when I'm out in the mountains. If anything, I go faster because then the perspective keeps changing and the photographs keep coming to you. Somewhere like this, you can't just rush through the woodland. You've got to slow down and like the image before, whether or not it was any good, I don't know. But, you know, I'm looking down at my feet. I'm physically stopping at times, looking round. I mean, look at that there. It probably isn't, but there could be 1,000 photographs within that scene there, which is kind of the crux of the whole video that I'm making here. There could be, you know, especially if you take into account macro as well, or like the shot I just took where you zoom in right in, you could go wider, you know, can move left and right. And I think for me, when I see other people taking good photographs in these sorts of places, it starts becoming like a fact then. You know, it's like, oh, there are good photographs here. I'm just not able to find them at the minute. But yeah, I mean, it's easier said than done. And I've maybe got a couple more tips as well that I'd like to share with you as we explore this exquisite woodland. I tell you what, this is a lot better than TV. Would you agree? It's got to be better than TV, this, hasn't it? I do like TV, but man, this is some spot. Oh, so I must admit, I am very tempted to continuously look down at my feet and take intimate photographs of the bluebells because they look so beautiful, and almost sort of every bunch, of course, has got like, you know, a different shape, different stages of flowering, a few different colours, very subtly, different, like the way that the flowers are hanging. But I'm going to be very deliberate in trying to not do that. I feel like I've got a nice intimate shot for now. And I want to try and focus on challenging myself in, I suppose, trying to get something a little bit wider. Not necessarily with the wide angle or at 24mm, but just something a little bit wider where I can incorporate some of these gorgeous deciduous trees. Before we hopefully try and get another good photograph, I would love to take the opportunity to say another massive thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring today's video. So if you've never heard of Squarespace, they are an all-in-one platform that you can use to build your own website. My own website is through Squarespace, and it is so easy to build a website through them. You don't need to know loads about software or web development or coding or anything like that. You simply head over to their website. They've even got AI to help you build it. They've got templates that you can use, and within, you know, probably less than an hour now with the AI, you will have your website up and running. And apart from it being so easy and non-intimidating to build a website, you can also sell things as well. So if you wanted it to be more than just a portfolio, you can do that. That's what I do with my website that I'm really proud of, by the way. I sell some of my prints on there. I have ebooks available for purchase. I advertise my workshops on there and sell my calendar when it's the right time of year. And yeah, I wouldn't be able to run my business without it. And lastly, and simply put, Squarespace have got incredible award-winning customer service. So I'm banging on about AI being able to help you build the website, which is brilliant. But if you want to speak to an actual human, they are always there to help guide you through the process. So in my opinion, it's really good value for money, especially if you're kind of intimidated about the prospect of building a website, because trust me, you don't need to be with Squarespace. It is so easy. So if you'd like to give them a go, head over to squarespace.com/Henry Turner, or click the link in the video description down below. That will get you a 14-day free trial. So you've not really got anything to lose. If you like your free trial, make sure to use the offer code Henry Turner at checkout. That will not only get you 10% off your first purchase, but it'll also really help me out as well. So another massive thank you to them. You know what, I think if I could have one goal, like the ultimate goal from this video, and probably from my YouTube channel in general, to be honest, is to try and convince people that may be into photography that yes, there's always better landscapes to shoot. And you see people like me out in national parks and stuff all of the time, but you can still get out with your camera and enjoy the process of taking photographs anywhere. You know, find a local woodland. And look, I'll be honest with you, I'm very lucky, extremely fortunate that I get to do this full time. At the end of the day, without going off on a tangent, that's down to you and the support that I receive from you lot. So as always, thank you so much. And you know, my point is that, of course, because I've got that opportunity, I'm going to try my best to get to, simply speaking, photogenic locations. The most that I can do week in, week out, with it being logistically viable for me, you know, in terms of driving my car and stuff. Fortunately, I live close to the Lake District and mountainous terrain. So like I said, I'm always going to try my best to get to places like that. But yeah, I really hope that doesn't discourage you from just going out with your camera wherever you are. Because like I said, honestly, some of my favourite photographs from other photographers aren't from big epic landscapes and stuff like that. And at the end of the day, right now, I am enjoying being a photographer and taking photographs just as much as if, you know, I was somewhere abroad in an epic landscape, because I'm doing the same thing. If anything, I'm doing it more because I've got to concentrate more. I've got to get more stuck into it. This woodland is madness, absolute madness. I cannot believe this place. I've been to this woodland 3 times in my life, but I've never explored it properly like I'm doing this evening. This is why little recce's like this are so good. All I've ever done for the most part is kind of come to see how the bluebells are doing, which in a way is a little bit of a waste. If you're going to come, you know, try and take the time to actually explore around. I'll tell you what, it's just vast. It's absolutely massive, man. There's bluebells everywhere. Look at the state of it. They're everywhere. And they're nowhere near full flower just yet. This place in 2 weeks, I'll tell you what, there probably can't be many better places to be in my local area anyway. This is what I mean about, you know, taking it slow, looking, no need to rush around the place. This really small little section here, for some reason, I can only assume because perhaps more sunlight's been able to get in, it's really, you know, in bloom. It's still got a while to go, but that is the most colour from the bluebells that I've seen so far. So I'm probably going to take my time here and just try and concentrate on this section, move around a bit as much as I can without absolutely wrecking the bluebells. I don't want to be stamping on any of them, but yeah, I don't know, it just feels like there's a bit of an opportunity here. But that's it, isn't it? You know, this isn't a photograph that's presented itself to me. It's a little bit of an opportunity in the fact that there's a bit more colour here. That's it. You know, or imagine another thing that I was going to say actually, imagine if we had light this evening, I would suggest focus on where the light is physically hitting the land and then try and work a photograph around that. But again, when you're in really cool places, it's more about, oh, there's a photograph. It's like just someone's giving it to you. Oh, cool. All I've got to do is get my camera out and take it. But yeah, good photographers can, like I said, be somewhere like this and they're just smashing out like amazing photographs because they're applying things, I guess, that I'm trying to talk about today loosely, and focusing on composition. Because at the end of the day, let's all be honest, apart from probably having a bit of luck with the light, everything comes down to composition. So I had a good look around that little section where there was a lot more colour, and I just couldn't really find anything. And actually, one thing that I like to think, I think there's a really positive mindset with photography, is that, you know, on this occasion, I wasn't able to find a photograph, rather than saying to yourself, ah, there's not a photograph there. You know, and that's what I was getting at earlier about imagining other photographers, or if you go out with other photographers, somebody else may have got a photograph there within the first minute. You know, somebody else may have struggled 10 times more than even you did, saw absolutely nothing. And yeah, I think that's really positive, because that says to me, it was beautiful. It felt like there might have been potential, but, you know, in this instance, I wasn't able to find anything. So it keeps you encouraged, you know, that sort of motivates me to think, well, I'll come back, because I feel like there was something there. And honestly, I know I keep going on about it. Look at this. Look at it. It's absolutely gorgeous. So you can see we're down by the river now, and I'm just going to follow this. It's actually, we've done like a bit of a loop. So we were up in the higher section of the woodland. I was going to go back the way, which is a tip that I would recommend, especially in woodlands. If you wanted to try and get good photographs, come one way and then go back the same way, because going back with a different perspective, looking the opposite direction, you know, it can look like a completely different woodland. But for now, because this is just a bit of a recce more than anything, I just want to try this loop. So I've just stopped here because I think there's an opportunity for an image, or at least a nice little snap to see how this is going to look in a couple of weeks. As you can see here around me, if you're familiar with British woodland territory, this is all now wild garlic as opposed to the bluebells. Just as incredible, if not better, in my opinion. I love wild garlic. But yeah, we've got quite a nice little composition here. As you can see, we're on the path, so we are going to have the path in this photograph. But like I said before, I wanted to try and get an image that was a little bit wider, and yeah, I think this is worth a punt. So I wanted to give you a massive cliche on how actually to get better at seeing opportunities and building images from scratch, and ultimately getting better at composition. And that cliche is, you've just got to keep coming out. You've got to keep coming out and failing at composition and tweaking it and trying, taking terrible photographs, and keep coming out, keep doing it again, day after day, week after week. Honestly, it's all you can do. And, you know, I wanted to mention that especially because I feel like I've lost that a bit, you know, that kind of, well, the main skill that you need as a photographer to build photographs, because, like I've been saying all evening, I spend so much time out in landscapes that I feel give you photographs almost by nature. They just, you know, you're in an epic landscape, there's beautiful mountains, there you go, Henry, there's your photograph. All you've got to do is move around a little bit, you know. It's just the way I feel about it. But yeah, it's brilliant, because it's almost like training. You're training your eye, you've got to just keep coming out and doing it. And it's actually quite frustrating. I'm feeling quite frustrated at the minute, but I'm glad about this image, because at the very least, I'm getting my sort of wider focal length shot that I was after this evening. Very simple concept, I don't really need to explain it, it's just that, as you're seeing it there. 24mm, the path is leading off into kind of nothingness, so I'm focusing on these trees here that you can see in front of us, and I'm actually shooting a bit more wide open at f5.6 so that we get a little bit of blur off into the background. So we've just come out of the woodland a little bit for a second, but to be honest, we're not far from the end of this little loop. I'm not far from where I first come into the woodland, but although I've been saying it's just a recce, sometimes I feel like that's a bit of a cop-out, isn't it? To yourself. Oh, it's just a recce. I'm just exploring. I just can't help but feeling like I would like one more photograph. Something decent. Something decent to work with. Ugh. So yeah, we'll see. We'll get back into the woodland in a second. And not promising anything, but I would love to try and get something else. Oh wow, look at that. Oh, look at the sun through there. You just want to be up there on that ridge, don't you? Facing towards the sun, seeing what's there. Oh, things like that. I tell you what, it gets me excited to think that the conditions in this woodland this evening, albeit not horrendous, they could be a heck of a lot better if we get some nice light like that. If it was actually streaming into the woodland and maybe a bit of fog as well, it has to be said, doesn't it? That's the thing to look out for, isn't it? A misty morning like that. So that's us back at this gate now, really. Oh, where we first come in. And I was just messing about a second ago saying to call something a recce is a bit of a cop-out, but it was genuinely just wanted to come for a little explore. I realised, or have realised, that I hadn't touched even 5% of this woodland. That is phenomenal. So I'd be buzzing to come back here, and a couple of alright shots, but yeah, more important. Oh, I was about to wrap it up there, but let's just relax for a second here now. Let's just relax, Henry. Look at this. I mean, it's like I said before, I'm just going to go back towards the woodland. It's like I said before, I think I mentioned it briefly. If you get nice light like this, face it and start trying to work with it. You know, it's not all that often that you get nice light like this. I'm just trying to see if the light's in the woodland. I think it is, right? I'm just going to peg it back in there, man. Oh, wow, look at this. And look, having good conditions, I'm going to go, yeah, it's nice there, but I'm going to go back up to where the bluebells are. Having good conditions doesn't necessarily, well, doesn't at all guarantee you a good photograph, but I've always found from my experience that it certainly helps. If we had this light now, along with some fog, again, it's no guarantee, but I feel like I would just be seeing photographs and opportunities a little bit easier than when it's been, well, the way it's been, like quite dull. I'll just spin you around here. You can see now we are getting a bit of evening light. So what it's beautiful, isn't it? I'm gonna sort of walk like this, as you're seeing it there. Keep looking over my right shoulder. Obviously, we just haven't got any time. Oh, if it was just like this all evening, I'm going to get a bit of a wobble on. But yeah, I'm going to keep my eyes peeled behind me, because I think it would be really nice to get something, wow, shooting back into the light like that. Right, I'm going to put you down for a bit, see if I can work with something. Oh, I think that's it. It is crazy sometimes how, in fact, all day today it's been like raining, overcast. Certainly had no light. We had a few bits and bobs when I was taking this photograph, you know, at the start of this evening. And even that, it wasn't direct light like this, but that's it, gone. It's just gone. And I was playing around here. Beggars can't be choosers. And again, and I've seen this firsthand whilst I'm out with other photographers, and, you know, I try to do it as much as I can, because I've learned over the years, you know, light is really important. I don't believe it's the be all and end all, certainly not for enjoying your photography, but I feel like when you get opportunities like that, you've just got to try and take your chance and try and build a composition around where the nice light is. I've made videos specifically about that before because I think it can be a really good approach. And yeah, I was looking at the images here. You know what, they're actually not that bad. I'll pop up my favourite one up on the screen now. And I mean, I don't really know what to say. It was literally, you saw it as the light was there when I had to leave you to try and get the camera out and get a shot. I was just working with what I had. I was trying portraits, wider shots, zoomed in shots, but the light was really lovely. And that just fills me with inspiration to think like, I mean, this is something you should do on a recce as well. Look, I know now, if I come back here, of course I could use apps and stuff, but there's nothing like the real thing. I know that there's going to be beautiful evening light, you know, around about 45 minutes before sunset, and it's going to be there. And you know, it's given me a little bit of a rough idea of what to aim for, what time to aim for, what section of the woodland to aim for. So that's good. A very successful recce. Oh, it's annoying. I don't know if the sun has gone down behind the ridge or if it's just behind some clouds. I'm going to go back up to that field and just keep an eye out, but my camera is telling me it's got 2% left. So that's it. That's all I've got. And thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Do comment down below. I love to hear from you guys every single week, and I really appreciate a lot of you. So yeah, thanks a lot for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed it, and I shall see you on the next adventure. Out.